The world remembers Michael Jackson as the greatest entertainer who ever lived, or as a troubled figure the media could not stop dissecting. Almost nobody asks how accurate he actually was. He stood outside Sony headquarters and called the head of his label a racist. He warned that artists were being exploited and that the industry would destroy anyone who pushed back. Every warning was dismissed. Nearly everyone proved right. The record has been hiding in plain sight. Throughout the 1990s and the 2000s, Jackson used public platforms, interviews, and speeches to issue specific warnings. He detailed how the music industry systematically exploited young talent, how major media manufactured false narratives, and how corporate institutions worked to ruin anyone who dared to challenge them. Yet, at the time, few analyzed his arguments. Instead, reporters framed these warnings as evidence of his own erratic behavior and mental instability. When he spoke about industry manipulation, commentators called it paranoia. Today, the realities of the entertainment business reveal that his warnings were not the delusions of an unstable star. If we strip away the tabloids, we find a remarkably consistent critique. The question is no longer whether Michael Jackson was eccentric, but whether he was right. On July 6, 2002, a crowd of 150 protesters gathered outside Sony Music's headquarters on Madison Avenue. The next day, Michael Jackson stood at a podium in Harlem alongside Reverend Al Sharpton. He threw down his glove and launched a direct attack on Sony's chairman, Tommy Mottola, calling him mean, racist, and very, very, very devilish. Jackson argued that record labels conspired against artists, treating them like modern-day slaves, stealing their master rights, and profiting from black creators while denying them real power. The industry's response was swift. Sony dismissed Jackson's accusations as spiteful, bizarre, and hurtful, defending their $55 million investment in his 2001 album, Invincible. Mainstream commentators immediately wrote him off as a paranoid, fading star attempting to deflect from declining record sales. Yet the vocabulary Jackson used to describe this corporate power dynamic did not disappear. Decades later, when high-profile artists launched public battles over master ownership, royalty transparency, and streaming exploitation, they repeated the same warnings. What was dismissed in 2002 as the erratic behavior of an unstable celebrity became the exact blueprint for the modern artist rights movement. In 1985, Jackson bypassed the traditional boundaries of a recording artist by purchasing the ATV music catalog for $47 million. The acquisition, which included 251 Beatles songs, was widely dismissed by industry executives as an eccentric vanity project. Yet Jackson understood a structural reality that most artists ignored. The real power in the music industry does not belong to the performer, but to the holder of the copyrights. By securing this catalog, he positioned himself not just as an entertainer, but as a joint partner with the very conglomerates that sought to control him. Decades before Taylor Swift initiated her public campaign to reclaim her masters in 2019, or Kanye West demanded the return of his music rights, Jackson had already identified the ultimate leverage point in the entertainment business. This was not a sudden grievance born of a failing career. It was a calculated strategy executed decades before the rest of the industry caught up to the rules of its own game. On March 6, 2001, Michael Jackson stood at the Oxford Union podium. While observers expected a standard celebrity address, Jackson detailed how the press creates, shapes, and dismantles public figures. He argued that tabloids profit by stripping stars of their humanity, locking them into rigid storylines that are nearly impossible to escape. Critics immediately labeled the speech as rambling and disconnected, yet the mechanics he outlined, where the press invents a persona for profit, are now standard concepts in modern journalism and academic media analysis. He warned that the press often twists the truth, urging listeners to look past the headlines. His address was a systematic diagnosis of how industrial storytelling operates. Soon, this exact machinery would be deployed against him, providing a real-time demonstration of the media power he described. In May 2002, Michael Jackson granted British journalist Martin Bashir 8 months of unrestricted access, believing a transparent look at his life would dismantle the tabloid rumors. Instead, the resulting documentary, Living with Michael Jackson, broadcast on ITV and ABC in February 2003, became a permanent case study in selective editing. Bashir employed manipulative framing to present Jackson's lifestyle in the most damaging light, systematically stripping key conversations of their context. Jackson's response was immediate and forensic. Having anticipated the potential for betrayal, he had his own camera crew record the sessions. He released this unedited footage in a broadcast special titled The Michael Jackson Interview, the footage you were never meant to see, exposing the mechanics of the edit to a global audience. The side-by-side comparison was devastating. In the final documentary, Bashir's voiceover framed Jackson's interactions with children as deeply disturbing. In the unedited tape, however, Bashir was captured on camera, praising Jackson's maternal instincts, calling his home a beautiful sanctuary and actively reassuring him. What Jackson had warned about at the Oxford Union, the deliberate manufacture of a public persona, was no longer a theoretical threat. It was a documented reality, demonstrating exactly how a villain is constructed on the cutting room floor. In his 2002 speeches, Jackson warned that corporate protection lasts only as long as an artist remains profitable and compliant. He declared that the system would actively try to destroy him for challenging their power, warning that industry leaders wanted to wipe out his legacy. Critics dismissed these statements as clinical paranoia. Yet, when the Santa Barbara County grand jury indicted Jackson in 2004, the machinery he predicted began to turn. As the 2005 criminal trial opened, the corporate apparatus withdrew its support. The endless media coverage grew increasingly punitive, and his circle of industry allies quietly vanished. The star who had challenged the business model of major labels found himself completely isolated, facing the exact institutional retaliation he had spent years warning other artists to expect. Jackson shifted his public focus from individual grievances to the structural design of the entire music business. On July 7, 2002, he declared that while black artists created the culture and generated the industry's wealth, corporate boardrooms maintained absolute control over the profits. The record companies really do conspire against the artists, he argued, especially the black artists. Dismissed at the time as erratic deflection, this systemic critique anticipated the industry-wide reckonings of the 2020s. The language modern artists now use to fight corporate exploitation is the exact vocabulary Jackson spoke in Harlem 20 years prior. On June 25, 2009, Michael Jackson died from acute propofol intoxication administered by his personal physician, who was later convicted of involuntary manslaughter. At the time, Jackson was rehearsing for This Is It, an exhausting 50-date comeback tour, driven heavily by mounting financial pressures rather than his own desire to perform. For decades, he had warned of an industry system that treated artists as products, highly profitable when active, but disposable when inconvenient. In the final weeks of his life, under intense corporate demands, that warning ceased to be a metaphor. Each time Jackson spoke against the music industry, the retaliatory response was not a structural debate, but the immediate amplification of his most damaging personal narratives. The cycle he warned about, where challenging corporate power triggers personal ruin, unfolded in real time, leaving him to die at 50 with his reputation at its lowest point. Years later, public validation arrived. As modern artists openly fight the same master rights battles and label cartels Jackson denounced in Harlem, his once dismissed warnings have become industry truths. But this validation came long after he was no longer here to receive it. They destroy you, Jackson warned, then they write history. Today, as artists still fight corporate machinery for their masters, those dismissed warnings read like quiet prophecy. He wasn't paranoid, he was just first. Share your thoughts in the comments below.